So today, we're going to take a look at Bokiti Cloud. It's a platform built for organizations that, just can't compromise when it comes to controlling their own data. In a world full of one-size-fits-all cloud solutions, this one's asking a totally different question. Let's dig in and see what makes it tick.
And it really all boils down to this one single question. In an age where practically everything lives in the cloud, who really holds the keys? We're talking about your most sensitive files, confidential contracts, private citizen data, critical patient records. You might think you know the answer, but it's not always so simple.
You see, this question gets right at a core tension that so many businesses face. On one hand, you've got the undeniable convenience of the cloud. It's easy access, no hardware to manage, you can scale up in an instant. But on the other hand, you have the absolute necessity of security and control. That means keeping your data on your own servers, under your own roof, following your own country's laws. It's a tough balancing act for sure.
And that brings us right to what the source material calls the data control dilemma. This is where we're going to break down the very real, everyday challenges of managing critical documents in the modern world.
Now, this isn't just some theoretical problem. For places like government agencies or hospitals, this is their daily reality. First up, you've got data sovereignty. Regulations like Europe's GDPR or HIPAA for healthcare in the US mean sensitive data often has to stay within national borders or sometimes even on-premise. Then there's the issue of sky-high costs and getting locked into a single vendor thanks to these rigid per-user pricing models. And finally, you've got all the complexity of trying to juggle a dozen different tools for documents, signatures, and workflows. It's a mess.
And make no mistake, this is not some small niche problem. The market for what's called Enterprise Document Management Systems, or EDMS, is absolutely massive, a staggering $6.5 billion just in 2024. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire annual GDP of dozens of countries. It just goes to show you how many organizations are desperately looking for a better way to handle this stuff. But it's not just about the size, right? It's about the speed. This market is growing at an incredible clip, over 12% every single year. That signals a rapidly increasing, almost urgent demand for solutions that are more secure, more efficient, and most importantly, give control back to the user.
All right, so the problem is crystal clear. Now, what about the solution? This is where Bokiti Cloud comes in, introducing what it calls a much more flexible approach to document management.
At its core, Bokiti Cloud is an enterprise document platform that's all about putting the power back where it belongs, in the hands of the organization. And that key phrase right there, the choice of how and where their data is managed, that's the real kicker. It's all about restoring control. And this is how they actually do it. Instead of forcing everyone into the same box, you get real options. You can deploy it completely on your own servers for maximum security. That's the self-hosted option. You can go with a traditional managed cloud service for pure convenience. Or, and this is pretty cool, you can blend the two with a hybrid model. That flexibility is the heart of their entire approach.
Okay, so we get it. The deployment is flexible. That's the foundation. But what can the platform actually do? Let's take a look at how this all-in-one system really works for some of its key users.
Let's kick things off with a really high-stakes example, a government agency. For these folks, security and compliance aren't just suggestions or best practices. They are the law.
So for people working in government, you're talking about essential tools like integrating CAC and PIV smart cards for secure access. That's a physical card-based login that's absolutely crucial for many U.S. federal agencies. It also has built-in reporting to prove you're compliant with standards like HIPAA and GDPR, and a really robust records management system to handle a document's entire life, from creation to deletion.
All right, now let's switch gears and look at another super document-heavy field, a legal firm. Their needs are a little different, but you better believe the stakes are just as high.
So what do legal teams get? Well, you've got integrated case management, which lets you link documents directly to specific legal cases. The platform also offers legally binding electronic signatures that are compliant with both U.S. law, that's the eSign Act, and EU law, which is called EDOS. And, maybe most importantly, it gives you these comprehensive audit trails that track every single click, view, and change made to a document. Super important.
So we've seen the what and the for whom. Now, let's get into the how. How does Bokiti Cloud actually plan to reach these customers and build a real, sustainable business?
This chart here really tells the story of the market landscape.
You can see government and healthcare are the big players, making up 60% of the entire market combined. And honestly, that's no surprise. These are the sectors with the absolute strictest needs for data control and compliance, which makes them the perfect audience for a platform like this. And their business model is just as flexible as the platform itself. There's a free community edition, which is perfect for small teams or developers who just want to get their feet wet. Then for bigger organizations, the Enterprise Edition gives you unlimited users for a flat monthly fee. That is a direct shot at the expensive per-seat pricing that drives so many companies crazy.
But let's be real. How does a newer platform like this even begin to compete against absolute giants like Microsoft and Box? Well, as always, it all comes down to being different.
And if you look at this competitive matrix, the story becomes crystal clear. You've got SharePoint and Box. They're cloud only. They just don't offer a self-hosted option. Then there's Alfresco, which does offer self-hosting, but it's kind of lacking a modern integrated hybrid cloud solution. Bokiti just slides right into that gap, offering the trifecta: self-hosted, hybrid cloud, and flexible pricing.
So what does this all boil down to? Really, it's three key things that set them apart. First, true flexibility on how you deploy it, your cloud or theirs. Second, service independence, meaning you can plug in your own services for things like AI, or you can just use theirs. And third, fair pricing that's based on your actual usage, not on how many employees are on your payroll.
All of this brings us to one final, really important question. Why is a solution like this so critical right here, right now?
Well, they've got a pretty clear, phased roadmap laid out. They're going to start in 2025 by building a strong foundation with their community and landing some initial government clients. From there, they'll grow into new markets before really scaling aggressively into the US and Europe in 2026.
And this slide, this really gets to the business side of things. The numbers here look pretty solid. The projected cost to get a new customer, that's the CAC, is about $5,000. But the lifetime value of that customer, the LTV, is $25,000. That's a really healthy 5-to-1 ratio, and that's the kind of number that makes any investor sit up and pay attention.
You know, at the end of the day, it really all comes back to this core mission, which the source material sums up perfectly. Every organization deserves secure, compliant document management without sacrificing control or paying excessive fees. It's about making that top-tier security and control accessible to everyone, not just the biggest players. And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. As data becomes, without a doubt, the most valuable asset in the modern world, will simply owning and controlling it go from being a preference to being the only real option for survival? Something to think about.